Who's excited about the new season of Kuroshitsuji? Well, me clearly. I mean, I've had this one in my cosplays for literal years. um, so it's really nice to finally have the chance to, make it. This is probably the best time to do it, since a bunch of people just got introduced to dear little Sullivan. And I'm pretty sure everyone's gonna be pretty excited about her. And spoiler alert, she's gonna be around for a while. And because she's pretty awesome, and that dress is right up my alley, I decided to make it. So, let me show you how. I like to start every costume with a costume breakdown. So, you know what we're doing and why. And the costume breakdown is basically just deciding what we're doing and how. So, first of all, this is very clearly the wig. I just made my first ever helmet wig not that long ago, and it's pretty awesome because you just plop it right on and you're good to go. So that's what I also did for this one. This is all one piece. Because of the complexity of this thing, I decided to make it all one piece, so it's much easier to put on. The dress is already hard enough. But it's essentially just a short black wig with the bonnet glued on top of it. The horns have EVA foam inside to give them the shape, and then they're covered in hair and all the other stuff. But, I'll explain later. For the dress, I love historical fashion and all that, but I don't know much about it, so instead of, figuring out what era it's from and all that, I'm just gonna read the image. Let's just do this the seamstress way and read the image, right? That's much easier, I think. The top is basically just a princess cut. It's half black and half green. We'll just sort out all the details when we have a whole piece, so it's a lot easier. For me, I don't know. I like to do stuff like that when I already have a sort of complete piece, to see what looks here, what looks good here and there. So that's what we're gonna do. The skirt, probably gonna need to try a couple of things, but it does need to be very big. She does seem to have two separate skirts, a long one for the back and a shorter one in the front that, go one over the other. But the green ribbons, I guess, do cover it, so we're gonna do half and be done with it. Because this is a therapy session and I don't feel like doing calculations. Maths are stressful. So we're not doing that. We're going the easy way. I guess. But it's gonna look good. Just trust me. So for something like this, we're probably gonna need some appropriate undergarments for structure. First we need a corset, and probably some kind of support skirt, like a gauge crinoline type skirt, most likely, because of the shape of the skirt, because it's short and then long. So we're probably gonna make the gauge as well, like short in the front and long in the back, so it supports all of the skirt. And probably gonna use some tulle skirts to support that. So something like this. This is a tulle skirt, very big tulle skirt, and a corset that I made some years ago, but you know, it's a corset, so it fits forever. I also have a little underdress, because, you know, corsets are not very washable. So that's it for the undergarments, I believe. Oh, there's also this little thing that I also went ahead and made already, because I had to start making the costume before I started making the video. Because, you know, life. All that's left are little details, so like I said before, we're probably gonna do that when we have something of a dress already on the mannequin, and I'll explain this in detail in just a minute. So I guess let's get to work. As usual, we start with the head. We start with a regular short black wig, pull the bangs to the front to separate from the rest, then hack the wig apart. Except the bangs, they're fine for now. Then we make a reinforcement layer for the back, and that white part is going to mark the placement of the bonnet, where it's gonna go later, so we can save on hair. Cheap wigs don't have a lot of hair. And they also don't have much for support, so we're making a layer to make it more secure with some kind of fabric. This is the stuff that we used to put inside COVID masks, like as a filter, but I have a lot of it left over, so I'm using it for this. And it's worked fine so far. Back to the wig. After we sew the new layer to the base of the wig, we start applying glue and carefully placing the wefts from the bottom up and from the middle towards the side, wrapping around the end of the base to hide it. Repeat until we hit the white part. Sealing has some slight shades of green on the ends of her hair, so I'm adding a bit of green under the longer parts in the front to simulate that effect. I added a bit more black because my wig doesn't have a whole lot of hair, but all under the original, so it's unnoticeable. We fix up the front a little and give it a little steam. Then we start making the structure for the horns? Ears? I'm calling them horns. So we make a little structure out of 5mm EVA foam. Fill it up a bit with some pillow filler, just so it keeps its shape. And then we hot glue it in place. Cover it in the same sort of fabric stuff as the back of the wig, so you can really see the foam under the hair, because I don't have a lot of hair. In fact, I'm gonna have to use some blue one to cover up some of the missing bits. Now we take the pattern of the white part with the horns already in place for the bonnet. I used painter's tape because it was just closer by. But any kind of tape is fine, or even just paper. You just need the shape. Then we cut the pattern twice on black fabric. You know, black fabric of your choice. It doesn't really matter. We stick some white lace trim in there because I didn't want to use random regular white fabric. It seemed cuter. And basically sew it in between the two layers of black, all around the bonnet. I added an elastic in the back to help keep it in place, but I'm not really sure if I really need it. But it's gonna help keep the wig in place, so I'll leave it for now. The reference also has a tiny white ribbon around the edge of the bonnet, but it's a bit too much white for me, so I used the shiny black one instead. Then we glue the hair around the horns. I used hot glue because I don't plan on restyling this wig ever again. Except maybe the front, because, you know, bangs. I had to use some blue hair, so to neutralize the blue, I applied some green to kind of hide it better under the black. So now you can't really see the blue because it's mixed with green and it's got black over it, so it's just barely noticeable if you're looking really, really close. But it's mostly black. Then we took some half beads and gold ribbon and decorated the horns the closest we could to the reference. First the ribbon needs to wrap around it, and I used so many pins to help with this. Took a couple attempts, but I got it close enough. And then just hot glued it in place so it doesn't go anywhere. Then I placed a half bead in each intersection. In the reference they look like knots, but I wanted more shiny stuff. So I made them half pearly beads. Then we need some more beads around the horns and over the middle of the bonnet, right in the middle, from the end of one horn to the other. But those are gonna be actual beads that I'm going to hand sew. And sewing beads sucks. But it looks better, so, you know. I sewed each one separately, so if the string ever breaks, I only have to pick up one or two and not the entire thing. So, you know, it's future-proof or idiot-proof, whichever you want to call it. Finally, the giant anime bows. I started with a placeholder bow because I didn't have the fabric yet when I made the headpiece. But I made some proper ones when I was making the dress that I placed later on. And that's it for our head. Week 2 started with some fabric shopping and pattern making. For the patterns, I made a simple princess cut top with a very low cut collar and a cutout that's going to be the pleated inner part. I'll explain the inner part quickly. Basically, you take a pattern of the size and a long piece of fabric, then make pleats until you have the right amount and cut the leftover to fit the pattern basically. And that fabric is now your pattern. I tried a couple different types of skirt, but the circle skirt won without a shadow of a doubt, because none of the others really had enough volume. I made like 3 separate mock-ups, and that was the only one that really had the proper amount of volume. So, circle skirt it is. The mock-up doesn't really look like much, and the mannequin is a bit drunk, but we get the point, so on to the real fabrics. First I got a really hard tool for the crinoline, and the biggest zip ties I could find, so me and my hot glue gun got to work on my very lazy crinoline. We cut a circle skirt in 2 parts. 1 short, 1 long, because the skirt's gonna be short in the front and long in the back, so the crinoline needs to be the same way. I started by gluing the zip ties vertically, and then sewing ribbon around them to hide them. See? Pretty! Now we sew the sides together, so we have a skirt, but we do have to leave a little bit open so we can still put it on and, it's still big enough. It can leave it open until about the height of your hip, because that's probably the widest part of your body, so if it fits there, it fits everywhere. Then we add the zip ties over the seams on both sides, a bit shorter on the one with the opening. Once we have a full skirt, we put it on the mannequin, or if you don't have one, you can find a volunteer to help, or just put it on the back of a chair. It should already stand on its own, more or less. And now we need the horizontal zip ties, but first we need to make some channels. It's not gonna work very well if we just glue them on while it's flat. So that's why we're putting it on the mannequin. First I pinned the ribbons in place. I sewed them in place by hand. And then I started putting glued together zip ties because they were not long enough. So I had to glue them together so they could go all the way around the skirt to make the hoops. I closed one of the sides of the back so they would just stop as soon as they reached the end there. And then I cut and burned the ends and closed the ribbons. For my inner layer to be done, I just need to find my old black corset and fix the zipper. This is a therapy project after all, and you can't expect me to make absolutely everything, right? Corners will be cut to get this done, but I already showed you how to make this exact kind of corset when I made my corpse bride, and I don't remember all the steps very well right now. So maybe just watch that if you don't have a black corset you can use with this. Minus some purple stuff, but you'll never see them, so it doesn't really matter. They actually will have the exact same lace ribbon at the top, because I'm using the same one I bought for this corset on the dress, because I have so much left over. And it's kawaii as fuck, so I'm using it. In fact, most of the ribbons I'm using for this project are leftovers from my corsetry course, or whatever you call it, that I haven't used yet. I also made a tiny little underdress, like a separate lining to wear under the corset and stuff. First, to be more comfortable, and second, because, well, corsets are not very washable, so we need to protect that thing. And yes, I said underskirts, plural, because I'm not really sure if the crinoline alone is enough volume, so I'm using Mimikyu's little puffy skirt under it to give it even more volume. And I think that's pretty much it for our underlayer. Now the actual dress. Like I said before, it's a simple princess cut top, half black and half green. So we cut the black, which is the middle, on the fold of the fabric, front and back, because our zipper is going to be on the side. And then we cut the green, the side pieces, all separately, or, just not on the fold. The skirt has three different layers, so we need to cut the long back part, then the long front part, and then the short one. I used two different fabrics for the skirts, because in the manga, the shorter skirt looks like it has some texture, and I kinda like that, so that's what I'll do. Since the green ribbons go right where the two skirts join, I'm making them just half skirts, and the green's gonna hide it if I just sew it in place. The ribbons are basically just long strips of fabric bagpiped and attached to the top of the skirt. And bagpiped is basically you just sew around it and flip it over like a bag. The dress only has a lining for the top because it's so many layers already, so it's really heavy. And I'm making the separate lining, so don't really need another lining. Now to assemble the top, wait, I forgot the sleeves. For the pattern of the sleeves, I took a normal sleeve, split the top part, where the shoulder is, into 8 parts, and cut all the lines, and split all the pieces apart to make it like really wide. It kind of resembles a shell, a seashell, and it then gets really tight around like the middle of the top of your arm for the bow, so it has a pretty strange shape. It's really wide, and then it's kind of narrow, and then it widens like as much as you can again for the bottom, because they're bell sleeves, and that's the best I can explain it. But I think that's pretty much it. And now the top. We start by attaching all the pieces of the front of the lining, all the pieces of the back of the lining, and then repeat the process for the outer layer. Then we put the outer layer and lining together, both with their outsides facing outside. And sew them to each other, basically, so we can use them as one piece for the rest of the construction. Then then we can sew the front to the back, right sides together. Hopefully you didn't forget you need to get into the dress somehow, and we have one side with an opening for the zipper, or whatever closing you choose. I forget sometimes. Too many stretchy fabric projects will do that to you. But before we can put in the zipper, we need to attach the top to the skirt. And before we do that, we need to do some decorations. Mostly to the top. The skirt already has the ribbons, and the bows will be placed at the very end. So we start with the gold trim. We first place the small gold ribbon around the seams of the front. You know, the middle ones, in between the green and the black. Then I placed a lovely lace trim on the pleated part and all around the neckline, front and back. Now the back has a bigger gold ribbon, so we're putting that and some fake lacing, because nobody's got time to lace two separate pieces under that lacing, because some corsets do have a little thingy to hide the holes where the lace passes, so we're pretending we're doing one of those. Can't forget to put in the sleeves, of course. I always close them after sewing them in place because it's much easier that way. I start by pinning under the arm and then making the pleat starting from like around the middle towards the shoulder on both sides. I don't really have the patience for measurements, so I just eyeballed the pleats because we're doing this the lazy way. After attaching the sleeves, I remembered they had some frilly bits at the end as well, so I went through my stash and found some more tulle leftovers, but with a cute little pattern on it that's white, so it matches the rest, and I added it to the end of the sleeves. To better distribute the ruffling on it, I first went through it with the longest stitch on the machine and pulled the thread until I was happy with it. And then I closed the sleeves. Now we can try it on and see if everything's alright. I actually had to tighten mine a little bit because of the corset. I didn't get the measurements with the corset, so I did have to fix it up a tiny bit, but it wasn't much, so it was enough to just sew the side seams a tiny bit further in, I guess. And now we can attach the top and the skirt at the waist. Just a couple more things and we're done. Like a zipper to close our lovely dress. I used an invisible zipper on the side because it's the most hidden place to put it. A few tips on placing the zipper though. If it is sewn too close to the teeth, it will get stuck. That's what happened to my corset. Also, the zipper works much better upside down for corsets and such, because the part that separates goes where you need more room, which is usually the bottom. And now the final details. We still need another lacy ribbon to go around the waist, and I can just sew it with a couple of stitches here and there and then I closed it near the zipper. And finally the giant anime bows. For this we started with a few rectangles of fabric of different sizes. 3 different sizes, because we need 3 different kinds of bows. We need some small ones for the sleeves, some medium ones for the head, and a really big one for the back. We sewed 2 rectangles of fabric, right sides together, all around, but leaving like 5-ish centimeters to flip them over. Also, you might want to make some really long tubes for the ribbons, because ribbon might be a bit too small for these. After we flip them over to the right side, we fill them up a bit with some like filler for pillows or whatever, and hand sew the hole closed. Next we wrap the ribbon around it in a way that looks pretty good and sew it in place. Don't forget to close the ends of the ribbon so it doesn't fall apart, and then we place them by hand on the dress and headpiece. Almost done with this cosplay now, just a few tiny little details left. The necklace, potion, socks and shoes. I bought the socks and shoes, as you can imagine, as well as the bottle for the potion, which wasn't quite perfect, but close enough. The potion is held in a beaded cord, so we had to make that too, and then the potion itself, which is basically a mix of very liquid hand sanitizer mixed with acrylic paints. I mixed some greens and a little blue, and a lot of gold. But then decided to add some glitter as well. I like shiny things. And I used a spray bottle, so to hide that part, I made a mess of ribbons and chains and hot glue and stuff. Not bad, but could be better. But I can just make a better one when I find the perfect bottle, so it's fine. Now the necklace, which I also made in week 1, but it's easier to put all the details at the end, so I started by measuring my neck, made sure it was the same as my mannequin head, and then I cut some two different kinds, one for structure and one for looks. The reference has 3 ends that come out of the neck piece, so we're cutting 3 pointy bits, kind of leaf-shaped, I guess, as well as the neck piece, and sewing around them to secure the tulle together first, before sewing the pointy bits to the neck piece. And now we decorate. I cut some stuff from trims and stuff. Some hearts from here, roses from there, some ribbons and whatever. It's a little Frankenstein as usual, but a very cute one. Then we hand sew everything in place, add some closures in the back, and it's done. And now I need your help. Yes, you. Not you. No. Shut Shut up. And now I need your help. Yes, you. And yes, I've taken so long to edit that I've finished Nelchan in the meantime. Yes. So these are my shoes. They're very, very simple. And I need to do something to them, because those are not appropriate for a costume this detailed. And in the manga they only had like bows. Literally, that's it, just bows. So not really sure what to do with them, and I was hoping you could help. So give me your ideas. I'm stealing them because I have none. Like, really not sure what to do with them. I haven't really caught up to the anime yet, because I haven't really had time to do much of anything. So I only watched the first couple of episodes. So if you want to leave me some ideas, I'm all ears. I'll probably be working on the Dead Side. The Undertaker's Dead Side. In the meantime, because this one's already done. And no, I'm not showing you the whole thing. You'll have to watch the other one. So for now, that's all I have for you. And here is the reveal. So don't forget to subscribe to keep seeing more crazy cosplays made ridiculously simple because I'm lazy. So I will always find the easiest way to make it. But I'm also a perfectionist, so they'll be very, very cute. Till next time.